Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use outcomes and learning mastery in Canvas to help you track students and see who is making mastery or proficiency on your standards. First, I'll show you what this looks like in Canvas, then I'll show you how to make it work. In Canvas, if you go to Grades in your left-hand menu, when you click on Grades, it first brings you to your gradebook that has raw scores in it. And while this is useful for some things, it's not really very sortable to identify which students might need remediation. If you click on Gradebook, it brings down a menu and you click on Learning Mastery. And when you click on that Learning Mastery, it brings up a different type of report on your students. And it has these colors that are associated with a 4, 3, 2, 1 score. And over on the right hand side, it defines those colors and as advanced, proficient, proficient, approaching, and basic or no evidence. And I put in those levels with my team, but you can call those levels whatever you wish. When you scroll over your standards, across that top bar are my standards, it brings up reports that can show you what percentage of your students are at the different levels and gives you more information about that standard. The best feature, I think, is if you click on that 3.1 or on that standard up there at the very top, it will sort your students, and I have clicked on that 3.1 and it has brought up to the top my students with the lowest scores. And so I can see that I have 4 students right at the top there that need help with my standard 3.1. And that can be a really great tool when you are setting up your intervention or remediation groups. So let me show you how to make this work. In Canvas, the first thing you're going to need to do is set up your outcomes. So over here on the left-hand menu, go find Outcomes. And when you click Outcomes, it'll bring up outcomes that you may have put into your course. If you haven't put any in your course, this will be blank. I'm going to go here to Cell Chemistry, and let's suppose that I want to put in another learning mastery. Another outcome. These are called outcomes. What you do is you click on Add an Outcome. You're going to name it, and I'll just call it 0 test. You can put in the language of your standard right here so that it's accessible. And then you can adjust your titles of your levels. And so what we had advanced, proficient, and we determined that we would have 4 levels. We had edit, proficient, and that's a 3. Oh, you have to click OK. We're going to insert one for a 2 that we're calling approaching, proficient. That's where 2 is. And this one we're going to call well below, proficient, at a 1. And then we'll say no evidence. That's what a 0 means. Okay, I've established what my levels are. Then down here you can set your mastery level, and you can experiment around with this. We determined that we wanted it to be mastery at 4 for some various reasons. But you'll just need to experiment with that and determine, okay, what score do I want to be a 3 or a 4? That's how we decided that we wanted our mastery at 4. It also affects the kind of report that comes up. The calculation method, we chose to go with their most recent score. And then you go save. And then it has all those settings for that standard. So now I have set up my outcome, And now it's time to attach that outcome to some sort of assessment. And the way you do that is through question banks. So you're going to go to quizzes. And then once you get into quizzes, you're going to go to your banks. So that's over here on the right-hand side. You go to Manage Question Banks. And I'm going to just set up a question bank. I'm going to call it 0 test. You hit return, and then now I need to, you can add your questions in your question bank, and there's another page that talks to you about using questions and question banks if you haven't done that before. But over here is where you are going to align your outcome. And so what that means is that when questions are pulled from this bank, those outcomes that you saw on that colored report, they are pulling from the students' scores on these questions that came from this bank. So you go Align Outcome, and I made that outcome right in here. You're going to set your mastery, and what that does is that says what percent do the students need to score to achieve mastery. We put this at an 87%, and what that did is we thought that students should get a 4 if they missed only 1 out of, I forget if it was 8 or 10 questions, that they should still get a 4. And so we just fussed around with that a little bit until we figured out what percent would work for us. So we used 87, and we said import. And so once you've imported that, over on the right hand side, when you are in that question bank, it'll show you that you have an aligned outcome that comes, this is the standard, that 0 standard that I've made, and that mastery is 87. That means that anytime I build a quiz that pulls from this question bank, the students' results are going to show up on that learning mastery report. And that's how you set it up. All right, that's how you set up learning mastery with using outcomes, and hopefully that gives you an idea about how you might track your students and find out who needs help on which standard. You can sort by student, by standard, and see how they're doing.